I'm on a global search to find the truth about modern-day piracy. Our food, our fuel, our clothes, our cars, our electronics, virtually everything we need or use comes to us by ship. Violence and crime on our high seas is on the increase. I want to find out why that's happening and what's being done to stop it. There are three main piracy hotspots: the Gulf of Aden, the South China Seas, and the Bight of Benin. In the last episode, I spent time aboard HMS Northumberland patrolling the vital shipping lanes in the Gulf of Aden. A merchant ship, the MV Saldanha, was pirated just 60 miles south of our ship.
Right, the gunner on this side is loaded, and he's got eyes on.
We found the pirate's empty skiff, along with money, ladders, and several RPG warheads. Certainly took it out on their ship, that's for sure. I'm now headed for the troubled waters off Nigeria, where I continue my search for pirates. My search for pirates begins back in the UK when I visit the Maguire family, who are desperately seeking news of Matthew Maguire. Matthew, father of three and son of Bernard, was kidnapped along with Robin Hughes by pirates on the way to an oil platform off the Nigerian coast. Well, thanks for agreeing to see us.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
How long has he been in captivity?
Well, now it's over 5 months, but in the last week or so, we were told that one of them was seriously ill.
What kind of pressure are you under as a family?
I mean, his mother's really upset about it. Little things of a night when you're trying to go to sleep, or you wake up early because you're thinking about the conditions he's kept in, and stupid things like shower, clothes, what food is he eating, where's he sleeping, is he tied up, is he free, whatever conditions are getting kept in now, God knows, I don't know.
How long has he been a diver?
Just over a year he's been a diver. This was his second trip to Nigeria, but he never actually got to the rig because we were on a supply boat. Pirates took the boat, the tug, and the 27 people that were on it.
Until recently, Nigeria was the world's 8th biggest oil producer. It has some 20,000 foreign oil workers in the country. They get paid well to bring the expertise needed to pump black gold from Nigeria's rich oil fields. However, it comes at a price. Over 100 are kidnapped by pirates every year. The seas around Nigeria have been described as a war zone. I'm going there to find out why it's the bloodiest pirate hotspot on the planet. I begin my search in Lagos. It's a vast, sprawling city that's grown up around a complex system of rivers, lagoons, and waterways. Nigeria imports 75% of all its commodities. As a result, ships from all over the world are queuing up to get into West Africa's busiest port. I'm outside the entrance to the port of Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa. Lagos is the fastest growing city on the planet, and probably the most chaotic. The 1950s had a population of just around 250,000 people. Now, depending on who you speak to, that's a population ranging from anything from 9 million to 18 million. But as this city expands at such a fast rate, it faces certain challenges. Unemployment, crime, corruption, pollution, and now there's another problem to add into the mix: piracy. I'm going to meet up with Duncan McNichol, a shipping agent. He's been working in Lagos for nearly 20 years, and he's got some footage of a very recent pirate attack that he wants to show me.
So the master filmed this from the bridge wing. As you can see, there are...
That's the pirate boat.
That's the pirate boat. And as she's approaching from the starboard side, they're circling around, trying to fire heavy caliber weapons and automatic weapons at the vessel.
The gun flashes, yeah?
Correct. Piracy is on the increase, and there's two reasons for that. One is that there is what we call the Niger Delta problem, and this is a political problem, and they are attacking tankers, particularly in the Niger Delta region. But also there are so many vessels lying offshore Lagos that they are sitting ducks.
Institutionalized bureaucracy and a corrupt and crumbling infrastructure means that sometimes up to 100 ships have to wait for weeks to offload their cargoes.
We're now in what's known as the quarantine anchorage. These are the ships that are waiting outside the harbour to go in, and some of them have to wait a considerable time because of the backlog. And this in turn makes them vulnerable to being pirated. In fact, only 4 days ago, a chemical tanker that was waiting to go into the harbour was pirated. The crew were beaten up, the money was stolen, they also took out their radio communications. So, how vulnerable is something like this ship?
These sort of ships are the ones that are being attacked these days. She's fairly low freeboard. As you can see, it'd be quite easy to get on board.
You put a ladder up that, you're climbing.
A ladder, a grappling hook. Most of the attacks are at night time. They use the cover of darkness to come in. A lot of these ships, particularly the smaller ones, won't have full watches on board. A lot of the bigger ships, the more international ships, will actually be lying well offshore, and may not even be anchored. They'll be drifting up and down, waiting for their turn to come in.
Duncan, just explain to us why this country has to import so much stuff. Why hasn't it got a manufacturing industry?
It's basically because of the oil. It became easier to earn money from the oil companies than it did to farm. So they let the farms go, they let the plantations go.
So it was like a gold rush, but an oil rush, basically.
Exactly.
My worldwide search for pirates has brought me to Lagos, Nigeria. It's not only the merchant fleet that's being hit by pirates. Lagos has a large deep-sea fishing fleet, and it's not just the economic downturn that has caused a huge number of trawlers to be tied up and left to rust.
I'm in Apapa, the main fishing port for the city of Lagos. Over the last few years, pirate attacks on fishermen here have increased threefold. Many of those attacks go unreported, and they've been widely ignored by the international press. One fact, though, I find extremely shocking is that over the last 4 years, 298 fishermen have lost their lives to pirates.
The threat from pirates is such that the only person that would talk to us didn't want his identity revealed.
You run a fleet of trawlers, don't you? Can you tell me how many?
69 vessels.
And how often do those 69 vessels come into contact with pirates?
It's more or less a daily affair.
A daily affair. Yeah. So when was the last time one of your vessels was attacked?
This week I've had 12.
You've had 12 attacks this week?
Yeah.
And what have they done to the crews?
They've beaten them up. I mean, I've had 4 or 5 of them hospitalized. You see, when the people come on board with the guns, or they come shooting, whether they do anything to you or not, they are traumatized, I'm traumatized. Because I'm scared to send off my vessels. I normally don't have so many vessels in port.
And how organized are these pirates?
They come in boats with bulletproof vests and...
So they're wearing body armor?
Body armor, they've got enough fuel supply, they're 40 miles offshore, there's no place is safe. And remember, a trawler has got a nets down.
It's very slow moving.
2.5 knots. Your freeboard is 8 feet. You're a sitting duck.
Lagos is a maze of waterways, and it's the perfect environment for pirates to hide. Finding them amongst the labyrinth of backwaters and miles of open ocean is not going to be easy. We have, however, just got a lead to someone who was one of their victims. Billy Graham has worked here in the oil business since 1991. 18 months ago, he was kidnapped and is still coming to terms with it.
You've actually met pirates, haven't you?
I've been held.
How long were you held for, mate?
Well, it ended up 26 days. I actually got to dig my own grave.
And made you dig your own grave?
Yes. I got to lay down in it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't feed me for 10 days. No food. Yeah.
Do you know where the pirates were from, the ones that took you?
Oh yeah, I knew every one of them. Yeah, some of them were fresh out of secondary school. Yeah, it was a sad situation actually. Yeah, I had to deal with it. I was a victim of it. They were a victim of it. Nigeria is a place that has got great potential. It's a great place. Look around you, huh? Ain't this nice?
It's fantastic, mate.
Well, we get to live this way. The rest of the country does not.
There seems to be a direct connection between poverty and piracy. And if I'm going to have any chance of meeting pirates, I have to go where they're known to operate. The next morning, I head off to one of Lagos's biggest waterside slums, Ajagula. Fishing has been the main source of income here for years, but now these people are struggling as they face the continued challenge of piracy and pollution.
We're just about to go across to a place called Ajagula. This is the biggest slum in Lagos. Figures range from 4 million to 7 million, depending on who you talk to. No one has really any idea how many people actually live here. And as you can see, it's not in a good state. I mean, you think that people were supposed to fish here? I mean, this was a fishing village. Look at it. Polluted beyond belief. People are still coming here in their droves. It's just phenomenal.
I'm attempting to meet up with Chief Udalari, who represents the fishermen and has lived in Ajagula since 1940.
So it's quite early in the morning here, and in my short trip just then of maybe 20 meters, I was offered some palm wine by 2 different guys, and sex, do I want some, by 3 different girls. So it could have been a very eventful morning, actually. It's been difficult to actually get a size, but you can well believe that there are up of 4 million, 5 million people living here, because we've been walking for, 35 minutes and it just hasn't stopped. It's like this all the way through, and the stench that runs through this place is, well, it's indescribable, really.
After some 2 hours, I meet with the chief. He takes me on a tour of the river where he fished for oysters and crayfish just 15 years ago.
There is no life in this water animal. There is no life in this water animal.
How far do you have to travel towards the sea before you see fish?
We have to travel to at least about 20 miles. Yes.
Are the people scared to go out now to fish?
Well, this time around, few people goes to the sea because they are in fear of being attacked by the pirates.
Are they armed? Do they carry weapons?
They carry weapons, sophisticated ones. They carry weapons that even our soldiers, our navy are not having in their possession.
Where are the pirates coming from?
Most of them, they migrate from anywhere, not from this our community. They use masks to cover their eyes, their faces. Then you just simply say, yeah, you cannot identify them. And when they do their half work, they get away. Because the peasant fisherman doesn't have gun, you don't have a knife to fight, you don't have anything done, your paddle, your pole, and your nets.
And what will they take from the fishermen?
Mostly the peasant fishermen, they carry the little money they've made, and whereby they don't see any money from them, they hijack their engine, they leave them alone.
Leave them adrift at sea?
Yes! Many are dying, many are wounded.
As I leave Ajaguli, the reasons that pirates could exist here are obvious for anyone to see. But it saddens me that some of the poorest people here fall victim to it.
While we've been in Lagos, it's been impossible for us to meet up with pirates here. The main reason being that most of them are purely criminal. They have no agenda other than making a buck. And I think the only chance of us actually meeting pirates is to go down to where the actual oil is produced, down in the Niger Delta. And the people that we'll have to meet are MEND, the Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta. We've been warned against going down south because at the moment MEND have a policy of taking Europeans hostage and using them to gain publicity for the plight that they see their area is in. However, I think if we're ever going to meet up with pirates, we're needing to go down to that area and hopefully make contact with MEND and find out exactly how they operate and why they've taken to piracy.
The Delta is the main oil-producing region in Nigeria. In 2008, it produced on average $2.2 billion of oil every month. The unfair distribution of oil wealth and the devastating environmental damage are the two main reasons given by MEND for taking up arms against the oil companies and the Nigerian government.
We are going to break down the production process to the barest minimum, and we are going to achieve it very soon.
MEND were originally set up as a political organisation who wanted the world to sit up and take notice of their cause. Today, they are heavily armed militants who attack oil installations and kidnap foreign oil workers.
We are enlightened enough to know what we want, and we are fighting for it.
The delicate ceasefire between government forces and MEND has just collapsed. But despite that, the Delta is where we're heading. There are on average 100 kidnappings a year in the region. In order to film here, the government have insisted that we have security with us at all times. Every person with white skin is assumed to be an oil worker and therefore a potential kidnap victim. I can't help feeling that our high-profile security is preventing us from getting to the people we really want to meet.
Bonny Island, the main terminal for all the crude oil that is exported, is about 45 minutes up the creek. These small boats, you can see these young men running around on, they're the actual ferries that go to and from Bonny Island and to all the surrounding villages. It's this stretch of water or some way up it that Matthew and Robin were both kidnapped in September 2008.
Unlike gangs, pirates do not operate in one area. The labyrinth of the Delta is perfect for them to hit, run and hide. And this, unfortunately, makes them very hard to find.
We're now in Ogoni land. It's about an hour and 15 minutes outside of Port Harcourt. This area is one of the first places where oil was discovered, and as a result, the environment has suffered dramatically. The people here were the first, actually, to rise up against the government and the oil companies and demonstrate about the damage that was being done, not only to them, but also where they lived. And as a consequence, oil no longer is tapped here. We're now actually arrived at our destination. I don't know who you're about to meet, but there's fishing nets up there, and there's a canoe, and there's lots of water. Security people that won't come with us on the canoes, which is about to get on to go down the creek. There's still a massive kidnap threat here. A pipeline was blown up yesterday in this region.
Now suddenly, without our security, we're all very conscious that pirates or kidnappers could be lying in wait at any bend in the river. Sunny is taking us to a damaged wellhead that leaked over a year ago, polluting the river for miles around.
Sonny, you tell me exactly where we're going now, mate. We're going into the mangrove swamp, yeah?
We are going to it's an oil well.
You can actually smell
yes.
the oil now,
Film,
yeah?
yeah.
You just get patches of just really thick clots of oil. I mean, I find it hard to believe that anything could actually live in this, but they're saying that they still catch a small quantity of fish.
This is the oil well.
A wellhead, basically, that's been tapped off. The smell, the stink of the oil now is overwhelming. The water's just got blacker and blacker. And it's hot. I can feel it. It's hot now.
It's hot, yeah.
Why is that?
The pressure from the wellhead.
Way below us now, oil is trying to come up.
Come up, yeah.
And that's stopping it, or
Yeah.
it's not stopping it, is it?
Can you see oil coming up? If you look at that pipe up there, you see something like smoke.
Yeah, yeah, I
out
can
of
see
that.
the smoke
Yeah.
coming out of
Yeah.
it there, yeah. You can see smoke coming off it, like a vapour, yeah? And that's incredibly explosive, yeah?
Yeah.
You know when people bunker oil, they steal oil illegally, could they steal it from there?
Yeah, they get access to this, then open the valve there,
Okay.
connect their pipe to it.
Yeah.
As they open it, the thing gushes out
Yeah.
to a standby tanker.
Who are these people?
Another way they do it is just on the pipeline.
Yeah.
They get to where there's a valve.
A valve, yeah?
Yeah.
And they
open it.
Just take it straight out.
Yeah.
Have people come and stolen from this one?
Yeah, through the sea.
They come in from the sea,
Yeah.
they're big barges, yeah?
Barges, yeah.
And they just...
Lodge them all along this place.
As you can hear, there's thunder up above us. It looks like the heavens are just about to open up, and I have to say, that mightn't be a bad thing because it might give us some relief. My eyes are streaming, the back of my throat is burning, and it's very hard to believe that the people still actually manage to live in this environment.
Production has been stopped here, but there is still a huge network of pipes taking oil through Ogoni land to the terminals on the coast.
Behind me is the old flow station. All this area is very, very sensitive. We've just been told that the locals that protect this, that are paid by the oil company, are on their way and they're armed. So we've got to get out of here very quickly. I just want to show you the new manifold, which is behind wire here, pumps the oil that's collected from the region 30 miles away to Bonny Island. We've been told that it's very sensitive to film around here, so we've really got to get on our toes and get out of it.
Right. Got to go, guys. Okay. Making a quick exit, we now head for one of the many deserted wellheads in the area that the oil companies claim to have cleaned up.
So as you see, they have cleaned the spill. So what they call cleanup has been done.
Doesn't look very clean to me. It's still leaking oil.
Leaking, and look at this.
This is supposedly
This
after
is
it's the
cleanup. This is the cleanup you hear they say they do.
In the short time that we are here, it's difficult to get a precise picture of what exactly is going on. But what the oil companies do say is that the oil spillages here are due to the bunkering of the oil, and the fact that when people tap in either to the pipelines or the wellheads here, they don't seal them up properly. As always, there are two sides to every argument. The bunkers seem to be doing okay, the oil companies seem to be doing all right. The simple fact is that the people here in the environment are the only ones that seem to be the losers here. I'm in Nigeria trying to meet up with the pirates responsible for kidnappings and attacks on oil installations. Crude oil is the biggest asset that Nigeria has, and the grand-scale theft of it not only causes huge environmental problems, but creates a climate where criminality and piracy can flourish. Ledamiti is a lawyer and campaigner for human rights in the Delta. He explains to me the different levels of oil bunkering.
There are 3 stages we found of bunkering, which were established. The first stage, those who cut the pipes and put it in jerry cans. Boys who are cutting the pipes in some areas, and selling to the middlemen, are those who have badges. And before you can be someone at that second stage, you must have a lot of connection and leverage, armed military people on that place. So you now have those guys who will now take it to the high seas, where you have the big tankers. That is controlled by very, very important people who call the shots from Abuja. For last year, through bunkering, we had almost $15 billion worth of oil.
$15 billion of bunkered oil in a year?
That's for last year.
And that's an act of piracy. It's an illegal act on the water.
Yeah. Part of the things you're talking about, kidnapping and hostage taking, are all part of those who want to take a little bit of this same money, illegal money that is going through this corridor.
The government's own anti-corruption task force believes that $400 billion has gone missing since oil was first discovered in the Delta. As we head up the river the next morning, the environmental damage caused by spillage, whether it be from cracked pipes or illegal bunkering, is truly shocking. We're heading to the village of Bodo. On the way, we stop off to see the damage done by a recent oil spill.
The more and more we made our way up the creek, the more and more devastation we saw in terms of the environment. The mangrove has completely been killed. It takes hundreds of years to grow. It's just dying. Look, it's just wiped out. Anyway, the actual leak is somewhere up here, about another 100 metres, so we're going to endeavour to make our way up there without sinking. But as you can see, the closer we get, the blacker it's getting. And actually, the weird thing is, the mud's really hot because of the oil. It's actually making my feet cook. That's about
that is the place.
Oil up there.
It's oil there.
It's a river of oil, a sea of oil.
Yeah.
This may appear shocking, but as far as the information that we have at our disposal at the moment, this happens at least once a day. There's a spillage at least once a day in Nigeria.
The villagers in Bodo are up in arms at the oil companies and the effect the pollution has had on their livelihoods.
And so far they've given you no compensation?
No compensation, they haven't. We are fed up. This is our river, this is our only source of livelihood. Over 80% of this community depends on this river. Look at all the people, you can see that they are all hungry. If this river was okay the way it was, all these boys will be in the river struggling for their daily bread. But because they have nothing to do, every day we fight with them that they should not commit stealing and all that.
You're saying that because of the pollution, people are turning to crime to put food in their stomachs.
Even this militancy we are talking about is attributed to it. Their pipes should be removed from our land. Our source of livelihood is destroyed now. And one of these days they will hear from us. Because the solution will be to blow the manifold.
Blow the manifold?
Yeah, we will. I'm saying we will. We are going to blow down this manifold and let government come and kill all of us. So let them kill us with their gun instead of we die for hunger.
Having failed to make contact with Mend in Ogoniland, we head for Port Harcourt. To be able to film in Port Harcourt, we're there as the guests of the governor, and he's laid on security that's not exactly low profile. Once we're inside our hotel, we establish contact with Mend.
Thank you very much.
We're told to await further instructions.
Excuse me?
As virtual prisoners in our own hotel, our chances of meeting up with Mend seem slim.
It's proving virtually impossible at the moment to actually get to meet pirates. We've had success in the past when we've been dealing with gangs, but this is proving to be very, very difficult. And also, you know, we're followed everywhere we go. We have... Our armed guards are here for our security, but also they're basically making sure that we can't go anywhere on our own.
Our predicament is made worse when we receive an official invitation to meet the governor at his residence early the next morning. River State's new governor is taking a hard line on piracy. He's one of men's biggest adversaries. We're on our way to meet Governor Amachi. We've got our own close protection unit. It's the only time we've ever had one of those outside of a war zone. Then again, that's not really surprising, seeing as there have been 300 kidnappings here in the last 3 years. Most of them people from outside the country. Governor Amachi is a bit of a maverick. He's trying to push for the death sentence for kidnapping here. His particular constituency where he comes from is probably the toughest constituency in River State. It has more kidnappings, more acts of violence in it than anywhere else. We want to hear about what he's going to do about the kidnap threats here and the threat from men. Governor Amachi has quite an act to follow. One of his predecessors, Peter Odili, faced accusations over the theft and mismanagement of several $1 billion in oil revenue. However, he has since been granted immunity by a government anti-corruption investigation. We're now with the close protection team on our way to meet the Governor Amachi. It's quite an impressive building, and there's a lot of security around. Governor Amachi has requested that we get to his office at 7:30.
There's a mission statement here that says our mission is to serve our people with humility and render transparent and accountable stewardship anchored on integrity and good governance. We shall use our God-given resources to improve the quality of life of our present and future generations and empower our people in a peaceful, just, harmonious society under God. It's a bit of a tall order. Let's hope he can achieve it. Well, after a very early start, we got up around 5:30 to be here for an 8 o'clock meeting with the governor. It's now just gone 10:15, so we'll be waiting for 2 hours, 15 minutes. For what? Through here? No, pleased to meet you, Governor. How are you?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine. What will happen is if you're free, breakfast, then as you're taking breakfast, I'll just take the Navy and I'll come back to you.
Okay, I think that's fine. As far as I know, that's perfect. Thank you very much. This is rather impressive.
So go ahead, let me join the Navy.
Okay.
I'll take them, I'll be back.
Thank you very much, Governor. Thank you. We're taking breakfast.
It's authorized to M&E. Look at the money they ask for, it's heavy. They have started. We'll look for our
Governor, possible to talk to you about, you know, some of the things that you inherited when you took over? What's your take on men?
I don't think there's anything called men. I've never seen one.
Really? There's no movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta?
I've never seen one. I've seen one person. Let one person come forward and negotiate with us. I've not seen one.
Do they not exist anymore?
I don't know. I've never seen one. I'm not sure whether they exist or not, but I've never seen one person called men. So far, the people I've been dealing with in the River State have been criminals.
Right, criminals. So they're using it as a political excuse for criminal actions?
Yes. 99.9% of those involved in River State are criminals.
They're criminals. Pure and simple, yeah?
Simple.
Well, particularly as you've gone out and said that you wanted the death penalty for acts of piracy.
In Nigeria, robbery attracts death penalty.
Yeah.
Now, here is kidnapping, force of arm, and collecting a human being. What's the difference? This is even worse than robbery.
Was that a popular move?
I think it's popular with the people. You should go to the streets. People are tired of these criminals. They are tired of these criminals. So it's quite popular. It may be unpopular with the NGOs, civil rights or human rights movement, but what's their population?
Is it possible to come around and see the people with you? Because you seem...
Let's go.
The governor then takes me on what is ostensibly a PR tour of all the good works he's doing throughout Port Harcourt.
I have to talk about piracy because that's one of the reasons that we're here. What do you think that can be done to stay up the problem with piracy here?
Poverty. Most of those people who are involved in crime now used to go fishing. Now there's nowhere to fish.
Because of the fish are killed?
Of course. The military governors that we had lacked the courage to enforce discipline and development control, which is what we are doing now.
You're saying that the piracy is a direct result of the poverty?
Of course. Who would want to carry guns and rob people in the sea if he can feed himself? Because you know the consequence of that is death.
You don't take that risk unless you...
Yes, unless you know you have a risk of dying too, out of poverty.
The governor has a no-nonsense reputation. He's been criticised for bulldozing illegal housing. But our first stop is a new hospital.
Yeah, this is obviously a bit of a publicity tour, but I have to say, he is genuinely popular with the people here. And you can only begin to imagine how unpopular the past governors were. I think he's a breath of fresh air to a lot of the people here.
For the rest of the day, we continue to visit power stations, water plants, schools, and other worthy projects. The governor seems genuinely popular with the people, but I can't help feeling that I'm being dragged further and further away from my reason for being here. Later that day, men get in touch again, and we're told to stand by.
Right, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We're waiting for a phone call from one of the leaders from MEND, the Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta. And if we receive the phone call, there's a good chance we'll be going up the Delta to meet them. There are two problems with that. One is that we've had security with us ever since we arrived here in Port Harcourt, and we're trying to actually get away from the hotel without them knowing. If we're seen leaving the hotel without them, we could be arrested. And also, we're on a very, very high risk if we're meeting the kidnappers, that we could be kidnapped ourselves.
That call doesn't come. And over the next 24 hours, we hear nothing from MEND. We decide to cut our losses in River State and travel the 150 kilometers along a stretch of road known as Kidnap Alley to a town called Warren.
Unfortunately, we never heard from MEND. We received information that the Joint Task Force had actually raided a number of MEND bases. Subsequently, we decided to leave that area. We've moved to a different province. We're now in Delta State. So we're hoping for a phone call to allow us to meet up with MEND later on today. But it's very much, as always when we're doing these films, is, you know, you just have to sit and wait and you have to be patient. Unfortunately, my patience is wearing quite thin at the moment because we've been doing a lot of sitting around. And a lot of promises have been made, but not one of them has actually come to fruition yet. So I think I speak for myself and the crew, are all getting a little frustrated here.
The situation has become so dangerous that we have been confined to our hotel for our own safety. We're hoping that some of the MEND bases in Delta State have escaped the government attacks, but our lines of communication are now also worryingly silent.
Well, we've been here a number of days now in Warri. and we're all beginning to get a little bit frustrated, if not a little bit depressed. We've had no contact virtually from anyone from Mend, because you can't actually leave the compound of the hotel. We're not allowed to film actually in the compound of the hotel. We can't step out of the gates for fear of kidnapping or being kidnapped. It's become our own little prison, really, and there is obviously a good chance that we may get absolutely nothing, no contact with Mend whatsoever. And all of that has to be put into the cocktail when we come to making a decision of whether we stay here or we bail. You know, we've gone past the time that we should have flown out here. We're well past that.
After several days and nights waiting for a call that never comes, we have to make the painful decision to return to Lagos empty-handed.
Personally, I feel that we've not achieved what we set out to do. Maybe we were too naive, optimistic. The simple fact is this country has a labyrinth of waterways, creeks and rivers, and consequently, whether it's activists demonstrating and kidnapping or attacking pipelines by sea or by water, or if it's just criminal acts, a lot of them happen on the waterways here. I think if we hadn't been so heavily monitored while we were here, we possibly would have come face to face with the pirates themselves. The fact is that we haven't, but that doesn't mean that we're going to stop looking.
As we left Nigeria, both British hostages were still being held somewhere in the Niger Delta. But on the 20th of April 2009, Robin Barry Hughes was released by Mend. And finally, on the 12th of June 2009, after being held hostage for 9 months, Matthew Maguire was also freed. In the next programme, I'm in the most famous pirate-infested stretch of ocean on the planet, the South China Seas.
This is our last opportunity to come face to face with modern-day piracy.
I joined the elite task force set up to challenge the huge piracy threat. And at last, I come face to face with pirates.
Kalau dia mau fight, dia pasti dibunuh.
We put to sea in the second busiest shipping lane in the world.
We're in a very small boat, and we are way out in the straits now.
And see what's up for grabs.
You take at the back, yeah?
Yeah, if it's target, yeah.
And finally, I travel back to the Gulf of Aden and speak directly to a Somalian pirate.
Who is giving you the training? 30 schools for piracy.